Okay, we are live.
Everybody. Uh, I guess I'm the one who's introducing. I'm Zach. This is Ryland. This is Ryland.
Yeah.
After, weekly Facebook Live here for you, giving you guys some quick updates about what's happened last week. And as always, happy to answer any questions that you have. I guess with that, Ryland, you want to take it away?
Sure, yeah. And I just have to say, it wouldn't be a Facebook Live without me pressing go live and then immediately handing it over to someone else to actually talk. So I wanted to talk about recently, over the weekend actually, there was a conference held in Colorado. It was the American Association of Law Libraries Conference. It was held in Denver, and some advocacy groups, Mi Gente and the Colorado Immigrants' Rights Coalition, they were holding a demonstration outside the conference, trying to raise more awareness of something that a company that a lot of libraries and lawyers use. The company is called LexisNexis. It is a compiler of data and information, basically. During law school, there was a really big push for law students to use LexisNexis as a case law and statute and regulation resource. So we would put in all the information when we're studying a topic and try to pull up relevant cases that would help us understand what is the current law regarding a subject. We don't currently use it here, and that's kind of a good thing, I think, because LexisNexis has actually started selling access to their data to ICE for use against individuals. So not only does Lexis provide these resources for law students to help understand case law, they also accumulate a bunch of data on individuals. This data can include names and addresses, and it also can include arrest data for people that have been arrested, although they might not have been convicted of any crimes yet. They've just been arrested. They could have been falsely accused. They could have been arrested for something really, really minor. But they compile this data through one of their programs, and actually then LexisNexis turns around and they offer up this data to ICE. I believe a couple years ago, maybe it was just back in 2021, ICE started contracting with LexisNexis, and they actually admitted during one of their budget or in one of their budget documents that they've released to the public that ICE uses the data provided by LexisNexis to get access to arrest documentation and information that states and cities are trying to prevent ICE from getting access to, because certain states and cities are enacting what's called sanctuary laws. Where they don't want local law enforcement officials to be working directly for ICE, basically as a second hand of ICE, and holding people, finding arresting people for something that maybe they haven't even actually done, and then finding out that they're here in the United States without status, alerting ICE, and then holding them actually to hand them over to ICE once they're ready for additional processing for deportation. So a lot of states and cities and provinces and counties have started saying, hey, this isn't okay for our local law enforcement officials to do. We're not the big government. We're not federal government, and trying to enforce immigration. And it's having a really negative impact on people that are here. And maybe they are getting arrested for a traffic violation, and then suddenly they're in deportation proceedings. And so Colorado is one of the states that has enacted a statute that is aimed at preventing local law enforcement from doing that. But then ICE contracts with LexisNexis, and LexisNexis gets information from the law enforcement officials saying, okay, we have this person arrested, and here is going to be the date and time that they're going to be released. So if ICE officials are looking at that, they could potentially just go there when the person is expecting to be released and pick them up, pick them up right as they are exiting the police station. So although the police aren't directly involved, aren't directly handing them over, they're nevertheless getting this information from Lexis. So it's completely bypassing the protections that states and cities are trying to enact, and so it's pretty messed up. And a lot of people like Mi Gente, like the Colorado Immigrants Rights Coalition, they are speaking out against this and saying, Lexis, why are you doing this? Stop doing this. Lexis has actually came out and said, hey, you know what, under the Biden administration, this information is not being used against people that have minor offenses. It should only be being used against people with serious criminal backgrounds. Well, first, the Biden administration has tried to make ICE priority directives, and they've been enjoined from actually carrying through those priority directives. Although they're still quasi in effect, the courts are trying to strike down the Biden administration's ability to say, hey, let's focus on just the big guys and not the little guys. Let's ignore the little guys. The federal courts are saying, no, you can't do that, Biden. And so trying to hide behind that is not really the best means to to get around to get out of guilt over this. But then the second issue is, yes, maybe even if the Biden administration is able to say, hey, we're only going to focus on big guys and not little guys, that is for the length of this administration. Once a new president comes into place, this information that LexisNexis is offering can then be used for minor things. It could be used for a minor traffic thing. A person gets picked up for having too many speeding tickets, and then suddenly they're in deportation proceedings. And so, it both is not effective right now because the Biden administration is struggling to actually enforce or struggling to adjust what their priority directives for ICE are, but also in the future. I mean, who knows? In 2 years, we could have a completely different administration, but that new administration will still have access to all of these records that Lexis has handed over. So it's really unfortunate and really frustrating for these states and local governments that are trying their best to protect their people that don't have status and make a traffic violation not turn into a deportation proceeding. So I'm here, Mi Gente's here, the CIRC is here, and we're all saying, Lexis, stop doing this. Stop handing this data over. And, this started back in April. And so it's been picking up some speed. There have been more and more people speaking out against it, but I just wanted to add my voice to the chorus, just to advocate against this practice and to let us, decide what we're going to do and whether or not we want our local police to be acting as arms of ICE themselves. And that's not to say that if we pass sanctuary laws that the most serious criminals will not be on ICE's radar. Of course they will be, because that information still will get to the government agencies that need to get it. But let's let us decide how we want our local law enforcement to be acting and not using their information to directly hand over people that should not be put into immigration proceedings, because they don't deserve to. Honestly, I don't think they do. Well, yeah. So that's my story there. Zach, do you have any thoughts on that? Or I do like to go into these tech issues, and this is kind of one of those. So I think we need to make up a name for my tech stories. I still want to stick to robot dogs primarily, but data brokers is a good thing to talk about too.
I have been missing robot dog updates. It's been a while, so if you could pull out one of those for next week, I'd appreciate it. I mean, adding my voice to the chorus as well. I mean, this is it's ridiculous. You're going to be acting this data broker to ICE. I think it's absurd. I mean, that certainly having access to public records is helpful in some situations. And I mean, in fact, I remember in law school, one of the recommendations that they would give is to search yourself on LexisNexis to see if there's some erroneous, I don't know, criminal conviction that's been tied to your name or something like that. But the fact that that could happen to us, and that could potentially impact our ability to be admitted to the bar. Maybe that happens to somebody else who is not trying to be admitted to the bar, but maybe doesn't have status, and then they get on ICE's radar when they no reason to be. Yeah, overall, just a pretty nasty business practice. Not a fan.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Agreed. All right. Well, do you want to talk about your story today? I believe it involves Latvia.
Yeah, so this is a maybe not incredibly interesting topic. I found it a little bit interesting, the way that this whole thing is kind of played out. As of July 1st, 2022, U.S. citizens are not able to, and not just U.S. citizens, people in the U.S. are not able to adopt children from Latvia. Latvia put into place a whole bunch of new rules about what is required for somebody to adopt, to do intercountry adoptions from Latvia. And the U.S. Surprisingly does not comply with all of their requirements. The State Department put out a one-paragraph little blurb saying, "Hey, just so you guys know, you can't do this anymore." And I looked into it a little bit, and I think it's interesting that we get one paragraph saying that you can't do this, and not why. So the reason is largely because of, like I said, Latvia's new requirements. They require that somebody who's going to be a country that's going to be eligible for intercountry adoptions have really three things that it complies with. One is the Hague Adoption Convention. This it's basically just a UN convention on the way that adoption should be played out. It's one that the U.S. is a part of, as I understand it. One is that there's a bilateral agreement between that country and Latvia about how those adoption procedures would kind of work, just making sure, again, no abuses in the adoption process. And then the last one is that the country is a party to the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child. This is the hang up here. The U.S. was one of the drafters of this convention, the UN, back in the late 90s, mid 90s. And then, after writing it and signing it, in fact, we just never ratified it. This has been a thing that's been on various presidents' radars. It's kind of an embarrassment if you look at the map of which countries have adopted the Rights of the Child Convention. It's just a big green map of the whole world, and then here's the U.S. that signed it but not ratified it. Barack Obama and his campaigns was, I guess, really promising to do so, to ratify it, because it is kind of an international embarrassment. But it just never happened. So, we have not signed this agreement, this international agreement on children's rights. And because of that, Latvia is like, U.S., you guys are, I don't know if you guys are going to be a good fit for our children. We'll go ahead and let other countries have adoption rights, but not you guys. The State Department doesn't go into more detail than, "Hey guys, can't do this anymore." Just a quick little blurb there. Yeah. So if you were planning on adopting a child from Latvia, not possible anymore as of July 1st.
That is so wild. I mean, with there are a lot of things that make people question whether or not the U.S. is the best place to live, and it's wild to now hear, oh yeah, this country won't even allow us to adopt their children because we refuse to accommodate to what they think should be a proper standard of living. So
Yeah, this
it's
concept of American exceptionalism, where we don't have to do what the rest of the world does, and we don't have to sign on to these international laws. We'll write them for sure. We'll write them, but we don't have to incorporate them. We don't have to subject ourselves to international jurisdiction over everything. I mean, when you get into what the Convention on the Rights of the Child is, it's a lot of just like be nice to kids, hey, no capital punishment, which, we had for a while after the signing of this convention. You shouldn't have life imprisonment for juveniles. Again, we had that for a while after this was signed. So it took a couple of Supreme Court cases before those were. Um, we also said, hey, it's probably not right for us to execute children, but I guess we're getting there. It just takes a while. Yeah, it's ludicrous. I think it's just an interesting story to highlight some perhaps deficiencies in the way that the U.S. is operating internationally.
Yeah, definitely interesting. All right. Well, we have one question from Beta Vernon. They say that I guess this is apparently Aaron's client, but they say that they're waiting for advanced parole since December of last year. So for 7 months. And is that normal? And so while you were discussing your story, Zach, I looked up the processing times on the USCIS page for case processing times. And you can do this yourself too, Beta, and anybody out there. If you just Google USCIS processing times, it should be the first link. And then you get to this next page and you select what application you're looking for the processing times for. So for advanced parole, it would be an I-131. And then you select that it's specifically for advanced parole. And then you can select whatever service center it's at. I looked at all the service centers, and it looks like the typical processing time right now, depending on your service center, can range from 9.5 months. In which case you're still under that beta, up to potentially, I think 17 months was the longest time, which I know is a crazy amount of time. If you're interested in trying to get that expedited, definitely reach out to us. Definitely talk to Aaron and say, hey, I've been waiting too long for this. What can we do to get this sped up? That's not to say that we can get it sped up. A lot of people are requesting expedite requests for all sorts of things right now. So there has to be some really good circumstances there for USCIS to actually approve an expedite. But it's possible that we could get one for that. And you know what, Beta, I'll ask that Aaron reach out to you and just give you an update himself, so that you don't need to come here to talk to us. You can always email him directly or email anybody at the firm, and you should be able to get a hold of us. So, all right. Well, anything you wanted to add to that, Zach?
I just, I think based off of those processing times you looked up, as sad as it is, that's better than what I was seeing maybe like even 6 months ago.
Yeah.
I was seeing a lot of year and a half or more before we get an advanced parole. I think that largely comes. So one thing that USCIS is doing now is splitting up the adjudication of advanced parole and employment authorization. They used to do them at the same time. Employment authorization documents are taking absolutely forever to get processed. And so I guess in an effort to try to speed them up, they decoupled that from the advanced parole, from the travel documents that would be filed. So it's in some ways good news that it's only 9.5 months, as sad as that is. I mean, for anybody who has filed an advanced parole document or wants to look up the form I-131, you really are only filling out maybe like 2 pages of information.
Yeah.
So, and most of them are like, I'll travel, I don't know, sometime in the future, TBD. What countries am I going to visit? I haven't decided. It's pretty ridiculous that it's taking at the short end 9.5 months.
Yeah.
But that's good news that it's taking 9.5 months. But this is the world we live in. The processing times are this bad.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that advanced parole documents are just not at the top of their mind right now, although it can be really important to the people looking for them. I mean, you could have been separated from your family members for years potentially, and you just desperately want to see your family, and that's it. And so it's really important to clients, but maybe USCIS has other priorities, unfortunately. So hopefully you get yours soon, Beta, but we'll just have to wait and see. And that is 9 months for just one of the service centers. I don't know where your advanced parole document application is pending, so it could be potentially longer than that, but hopefully they get it issued to you soon.
And that's also for 80% of cases are completed within that amount of time. So, could be shorter. Maybe you're not one of the 80%. You're, 90% of cases are completed in this amount of time. So, they've given us less data to work off for these estimates, but they say, 80% of cases will be completed within this amount of time.
Mhm. All right. Well, looks like we don't have any other questions. So, anything what's your signature sign off, Zach? Do
I
you
don't have a signature sign off. That's something I have to work on. I know I've missed a lot of Facebook Lives. Is this something that we've
No, no, this is something I just made it up just now. So I just wanted to see what you would throw out there, but I guess I don't have one.
Yeah,
That's great.
unfortunately, I'm not creative when you put me on the spot.
I'm sorry, Zach. I'm sorry. Well, it was a pleasure speaking
Yeah.
with you, and we will be in touch again next week. So if you have any questions, reach out to us then. All right. Bye.
Bye, everybody.